When I say we got some good blues clubs down here, we got some good blues clubs down here.
Oh my God. Dear travelers from around the world, welcome to our new video. We are in an extraordinary place. After traveling through Europe, we've crossed the Atlantic Ocean again and arrived in another incredible part of the United States, Louisiana. More specifically, its largest, most vibrant and culturally unique city, New Orleans.
Happy Mardi Gras!
Welcome! The origin of the Mardi Gras celebration goes back to the French colony of New Orleans, where locals would host balls and dinners before Ash Wednesday. Shrove Tuesday is celebrated in many parts of the world, but here, the combination of jazz, costumes, and the city's unique culture makes it especially memorable.
Happy Mardi Gras!
Happy Mardi Gras! Happy Mardi Gras! I ride with the Duke Johnny Williams in the Cruise Zulu. So I'm one of his 8 duchesses.
And that one's the best one, right? The best.
Of course. We are the best of everything that we do.
Mardi Gras parade crews are the heart and soul of the festival. They are associations that prepare the parades and the celebration. In addition, they also organize gala dinners and philanthropic events. There are about 70 crews, from classic ones like Protheus and Thoth to the intergalactic ones like the Chewbaccas. Each has its own organization and membership rules. Membership for some may cost as little as $20 a year, which others can have membership fees as high as $1,000 a year. All crews have their own symbology and elements, but for each parade, they choose a distinctive theme related to entertainment, literature, legends, or politics. Some keep it a secret until the day of the parade. Getting this coin was no easy task, but I finally managed it. One of the most popular places in New Orleans is Bourbon Street, and that's not just during Mardi Gras. In fact, it's always crowded. Even now, in the early morning, there are already a lot of people strolling along it. The street welcomes up to 17 million tourists a year, and at night, it's just crazy. The French Quarter, also known as the Vieux Carré, is the oldest neighborhood in New Orleans and was founded by the French in 1718. After a big fire in 1788, the Spanish, who ruled Louisiana at the time, decided to replace the wooden houses with brick ones with large wrought iron arches and balconies, giving the neighborhood the incredible look it has today. We've decided to make a quick stop to try the very famous hurricane cocktail here. It was invented during Prohibition by an Irishman who started mixing citrus fruits with cherries and rum. It's very tasty, but in moderation. There's a very unusual police station here in New Orleans. Just take a look at it. It's a working police station, so police officers work here, and citizens come to file complaints and things like that. But because it's a very touristy place, you can also buy a lot of police merchandise and souvenirs here. To tell you the truth, there's quite a lot of crime in New Orleans, and it's not an easy job. In the 19th century, the French Quarter became the center of the New Orleans nightlife. Live music became an integral part of the neighborhood's culture, and the best jazz musicians in history have played in its venues.
Mardi Gras memories.
Orleans is located in the Mississippi Delta, nestled between the river and Lake Pontchartrain. The French Quarter is located by a distinctive U or a crescent-shaped bend in the river, and all the areas of interest are spread around it. The city is often called the Crescent City because of the shape of the original settlement along this bend in the river, but the fact is that New Orleans has 1,000 nicknames and ways people call it.
So how do you really call New Orleans?
New Orleans. And if it's a street, like just one word, then it's Orleans. But normally just New Orleans.
What about NOLA?
Yeah, that like if you're texting somebody or like just quickly, then you say NOLA.
And the Big Easy thing?
No one really uses that. It's more of like a marketing thing.
In New Orleans, there's a place you really must visit, and that is Congo Square, which is a small park inside a larger park dedicated to Louis Armstrong. Initially, you may not think that it's interesting, but this is in fact the birthplace of two cultural phenomena of this land: jazz and voodoo. And speaking of voodoo, there are still rituals held here in Congo Square on Sundays. I don't know if they're real religious rituals, maybe it's a bit of mock-up, something in between modern or new age ceremonies and typical rituals of power, protection, and things like that. We can see some of the offerings that people bring here. Historically, slaves used to gather here to dance, and they also protected their religion here. Apparently, over time, their religious rituals began to overlap with European rituals, resulting in a rather wild mixture. The place used to be filled with market stalls selling various potions, amulets, dandelion extracts, and God knows what else that was made here. The African influence on the music of New Orleans can be traced at least as far back as 1835, when Africans gathered in the square on Sundays to play music and dance. The music of local white composers, such as Louis Moreau Gottschalk, was heard here too. With the African bass, the traditional European music, and the influence of habaneras and other Caribbean compositions, the foundation of jazz were laid. The best known musicians in New Orleans is Louis Armstrong, whose name was given to the park where Congo Square is located, and who, by the way, was the most famous king of one of the Mardi Gras brotherhoods, the Zulu crew. This is one of the best known places in New Orleans. We are in Jackson Square, very close to the French Market. Here you see Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States and hero of the war against the British. And this marvel that we see here, which looks like the castle in Disneyland, is actually not a castle, but St. Louis Cathedral. It's a very famous building originally built in the French style. Then it also tried the Spanish Baroque style, but since there were a lot of fires in the city, none of it has survived to this day. But it's one of the largest cathedrals in the United States, and also the second oldest after St. Augustine Cathedral, which you see in the videos here, by the way. Or here. Here it says church, quiet zone, but this square is not quiet at all. It's one of the most popular meeting points in New Orleans, and clowns, jugglers, and musicians play Cajun music or blues gather around it. In general, it's very crowded all year round. If you want, you can also get your fortune told based on your hand or even the coffee grounds in your cup. There are all kinds of fortune tellers here.
Make some noise for that. Come on, y'all.
It just means that I am crazy flexible and that you are.
The number of parades during the last 2 days of Mardi Gras is staggering, and they go on for hours in various neighborhoods. Most take place on the main streets surrounding the old town, so tourists hang around mostly at Jackson Square and the French Market. This place is the open air market, and it's very crowded right now. Whoa! This is the oldest open air market in the US, and according to legend, Native Americans used to keep their shops here and trade with European settlers. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that it's been here since at least the early 19th century, so it's a pretty old place by US standards. You can buy everything here: food, souvenirs, Cajun recipe books, and the likes, so I encourage you to take a walk through it and enjoy the atmosphere and smells. One of the most special things about New Orleans is its food. It's kind of a mixture of French, Spanish, Creole, and Cajun cuisines, so it's very unusual and you won't find anything like it in other parts of the United States. And now, we're gonna try some local dishes. First of all, the crab soup. I don't know what it's called, but it's pretty simple. And then this is a very famous sandwich called po' boy. And another very typical thing here is oysters with lots of spices. We're going to mix seafood and meat now, but in New Orleans, it's very common. I've ordered one of the most famous dishes, jambalaya as they call it here. It smells really good. Let's try it. It's amazing. And now we're gonna try a rice dish called gumbo. As you can guess from the name, it has shrimp in it. It should appeal to those who like fatty food. Tasty. Very, very greasy. I've ordered crabs, and I don't know why they've also brought me this dish with corn on the cob, sausages, and potatoes. I don't think we could ever eat it all. But let's try. And another traditional New Orleans treat is this king's cake, which reminds me a bit of the Spanish roscón de reyes. It's a very distinctive Mardi Gras treat, and the bakeries here sell it all month long. As you can see, it's also dyed in Mardi Gras colors. Let's give it a try. Very tasty. Puff pastry, like a croissant, but generously sprinkled with sugar. It's delicious. And more food. We don't stop eating. Some very nice people on the street have just treated us to some praline, a sweet with lots of sugar. This one is plain. And this one is the same but with chocolate. It's to die for. Look at this beautiful building. And now we're approaching the infamous Andrew Jackson Hotel, which is notorious for being haunted. There are actually a lot of tours of haunted places in New Orleans, so if you're going to visit one of them, I'll give you a spoiler. The thing is with this hotel, oof. As soon as I started to tell you this story, I got some chills right away. The thing is, it was a children's hospital or an orphanage. There are many different versions, and it burned down in a fire. And now the hotel guests often see ghosts of children here. Look, you can also take a ride here. The TREME neighborhood is quite a peculiar place. First of all, it was hit hard by Hurricane Katrina, so some parts of it, especially those near the highway, are in very poor condition. And it's also quite dangerous. Now we are right in this area next to St. Augustine Church, which you see here. And this is one of the few churches in the United States that was funded with money provided by freed black slaves. This neighborhood suffered a lot after Katrina, but now it's started to become popular again and is filling up with trendy bars. As you can see, it's very atmospheric now, so I recommend you take a walk here. And we've come to TREME not just because it's a very interesting neighborhood, but also because on Shrove Monday, there is one of the most interesting parades of this entire Mardi Gras festival, known as Lundi Gras, the main attribute of which is beans. It may seem a little strange, but it is a very important symbol of Creole culture.
May I ask you why it's so important this bean parade?
I actually looked it up this year. Somebody, like 10 years ago or something, one guy had a jacket with beans on it and everybody loved it and it just grew from there and it just blew up.
For 150 years on the evening of Mardi Gras, Rex, the king of the carnival and the oldest crew, arrives by boat on the river bank, and after a pompous parade, the mayor hands Rex the keys and the temporary governorship of the city. Today, the king of the Zulus has joined Rex in having symbolic control of the city for 24 hours until the festival is over. The big day has begun. Mardi Gras has officially started. So we're dressed in the colors of the festival, and we're gonna see two of the most interesting and traditional parades led by the oldest crews, Rex and Zulu. They start in the morning, and as you can see, there are already a lot of people here who want to see them. Let's see what we have time for today. Now I'm gonna go up to one of the platforms you often see at Mardi Gras. To tell you the truth, I've come down from the platform because being down in the crowd is much more interesting. The atmosphere here is certainly incredible. The Zulu crew is the most popular among the African American population. It was founded by the descendants of freed slaves in the 1920s and 30s, and at first they could only participate in TREME parades, but since the 1950s and 60s they've officially started participating in the city's main parade. The most famous parades take place on the main streets of the city, between the lake and the river, but there are also those that take place in other neighborhoods, and we didn't want to miss any of them. We should have come here from the beginning. Oh. There is a city ordinance that prohibits sponsorships of the crews, so all expenses are paid by the members themselves. So the more humble the neighborhood, the more modest the parades tend to be, but that doesn't mean it's any less fun. Well, here we are, the best parade ever, the truck parade. Even though it's super noisy, there are fewer people here and you can catch anything. Look! Thank you, ladies. Happy Mardi Gras. Now I have a lot of treasures. Alright, something else has to fall.
Happy Mardi Gras!
To tell you the truth, it was very hot and we ended up a little tired. I don't know if we will get to the Rex parade that is happening later today. Maybe another year. Now we're heading back to the hotel. And from there, we're going to take a couple of walks outside of downtown and the old town. And since we're passing by, I'd like to show you this Irish church of St. Patrick, founded in 1833. It's the second most important church in the city and has a very beautiful facade. Simple, but very impressive. Finally, we've left the city center for a while and we are heading to the Garden District, which is one of the most visited places in New Orleans because of its beautiful houses reminiscent of the colonial era. The first houses appeared here around 1820 to 1830 when the United States bought Louisiana, and the Americans who came to New Orleans wanted to create a neighborhood between the plantations and downtown because they weren't big fans of Creole culture and didn't want to live in the narrow and crowded streets of the French Quarter, which was essentially the city at the time. If you get tired of the atmosphere of the French Quarter, there are two main streets here in Garden District that I advise you to visit. The one you've just seen with all those beautiful houses, and then there's Magazine Street, which is like the French Quarter, but with a much more relaxed atmosphere and it's much safer. Many people from New Orleans, even from elsewhere in Louisiana, come here to spend the weekend because it's much quieter. It's very beautiful and there are many leisure activities. Many guidebooks mention a cafe called Café du Monde, which is next to the French market in the old town, and which is very popular for its beignets. But we recommend you first to walk, take public transport, or drive to City Park, which is a very nice park where you can ride bikes and do a lot of other activities. And then come to this cafe and enjoy the afternoon. We've already ordered our beignets. A lot of people come here and ask how to pronounce the name of this delicacy correctly because they don't speak French. And the guy told us they usually say, well, it's like the name Ben and then E in the American way, so it comes out like something like beignet. They're famous for being completely coated in powdered sugar, so you can't eat them without getting smeared. The sugar goes everywhere, but I've got to say, it sure is very tasty. At the end of the day, we went to the best place to watch the sunset in New Orleans, Lake Pontchartrain, where you understand why the city's location is both a blessing and a curse. Here, we talked with the wonderful guide Olga about the situation in the city after Hurricane Katrina.
So this area was actually affected by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Why? Because it's actually really low area, and here in New Orleans we have low and high areas. So this whole area called Lakeview by the lake was under 2 or 3 feet of water, and some of the homes here are actually new. They were built within the past 10 years because the old homes, they had to be destroyed because after the hurricane the water was here for up to a week. And so after it was gone, lots of homes, they got black mold because it was really hot. It was the end of August when the hurricane hit, and when the water actually receded, it was already September, but it was still hot. And in summer, the temperature can go up to 100 or 120 degrees.
The Mardi Gras celebration went on all night until the police walked through the crowd on Bourbon Street to announce the end of the party. We went to bed early because we plan to show you something else the next day. Exploring the nature of the Mississippi Delta is one of the popular activities in Louisiana, and the best place to do it is the park named after the pirate Jean Lafitte. Here you'll find the Barataria Preserve. That's right, Barataria, like from the book of Don Quixote. Only this one isn't ruled by Sancho Panza, but by alligators. And look who we met along the way. Oh my god, look at them. They're old acquaintances of the visitor center because they've told us where to find this couple. They told us, just follow the trail and you'll see them along the right side. And here they are right next to us. If you've never seen alligators before, it might be a bit scary at first, but we've seen them in Florida. So personally, I am kind of relaxed because I know they don't do anything. They told us that the little one is about 4 or 5 years old and the big one is a little older. He's between 10 and 12 years old. Since they grow about 30 centimeters a year for the first 6 years, it's not too difficult to calculate their age. So they know their exact age here, and they can live for a very long time, up to 50 years. The area of marshes and coastal lagoons fed by rivers and estuaries is known as Bayou. Boat trips are very popular here, but we also recommend that you walk along the trails and platforms of this reserve. The park is highly recommended both to learn about this incredible ecosystem as well as the Cajun culture of the French Acadians who came here in the 18th century and who are an intrinsic part of the essence of Louisiana. Well, now it's time to continue our journey. We thank you for watching this episode to the end. If you've enjoyed the video, we appreciate your comments and likes. And if you don't want to miss the next episode, don't forget to click on the bell. See you soon, world travelers.